Hal Jordan is finally going to train John Stewart, and I just love the way that Hal decides to wake up John, and we just see John, as the story progresses, getting more and more frustrated with Hal. And this isn't just about how John was woken up by Hal getting the water thrown on him, but also in how Hal decides to teach John. And this is where we see Hal hand over the ring to John and tell him to fly. And John, in this moment, just looks at Hal kind of befuddled and wants more of an explanation. He wants more of an actual lesson. And Hal, in this moment, just simply says, I was a fighter pilot, so all I did was just fly. So go on, just fly. And I love that this just highlights the true characteristics of each of these two characters. Hal is much more of a carefree, go with the flow type of Green Lantern, and he realistically learns by doing, whereas John Stewart likes to be taught. He likes to know exactly how things should be done. He wants to understand the intricacies of how to do everything so that he can ensure that he is doing it 100% correctly. And in this moment, John attempts to fly. But instead of flight, all we see is him actually create a bird. And this bird actually becomes somewhat important a little bit later on. However, before we get to that, we see that after John unfortunately fails to fly, Hal hands him a ticket and says, I need you to go retrieve something. And this is where we find out that Hal's power ring is running pretty low, so he needs John Stewart to fly back to Coast City to obtain the lantern. That way Hal can actually recharge his ring. And in this moment, I really like that John just looks at Hal and says, but you already had this book, so what would you have done if I had actually succeeded in flying? And Hal just simply says, well, we don't have to worry about that because you didn't. Now go on and get it. And this definitely highlights Hal's lack of enthusiasm in training John, but also his lack of faith in John as a Green Lantern. He didn't believe that John would be able to do what Hal did, and that's learn by doing. Because in a lot of iterations of Hal Jordan's story, a Green Lantern doesn't get sent for Hal for quite a bit of time. And even in the movie Green Lantern First Flight, we see that Hal Jordan learns to do a couple of things on his own, versus John Stewart, who again likes to be taught certain things so he can ensure he's doing everything to the best of his ability, but also how they are supposed to actually be done.